Hello, YouTubians. This is XCal505. Another state introduces Firearms Freedom Act by Chuck Baldwin, November 6, 2009. Newswithviews.com. According to the report published on the 10th Amendment Center's website, introducing the Ohio House on October 16, 2009, the Firearms Freedom Act, HB 315, seeks to enact sections 2923.26 of the revised code to provide that ammunition, firearms, and firearm accessories that are manufactured and remain in Ohio are not subject to federal laws and regulations derived under Congress authority to regulate interstate commerce and to acquire the words "made in Ohio" be stamped on a central metallic part of any firearm manufactured and sold in Ohio. The report went on to say, while the HB 315's title focus on federal gun regulations, it has far more to do with the 10th Amendment's limit on the power of the federal government. It specifically states, the regulation and interstate commerce is vested in the state under the 9th and 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution, particularly if not expressly preempted by federal law. The Congress of the United States has not expressly preempted state regulation of its interstate commerce pertaining to the manufacture on an interstate basis for firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Some supporters of legislation say that a successful application of such a state law would set a strong precedent and open the door for states to take their own position on a wide range of activities that they also see as not being authorized to the federal government by the Constitution. Two states have already passed their own Firearms Freedom Act, Montana and Tennessee, and along with Ohio, at least 7 other states have introduced similar bills. Those states are Alaska, Florida, Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Texas. As you might suspect, the federal government does not take too kindly to these state laws. In fact, the Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and Tobacco, the explosive ATF, sent an open letter to Montana and Tennessee firearm dealers denouncing the state laws. ATF Assistant Director Carson Carroll wrote, "The federal law supersedes the act." The 10th Amendment Center quotes constitutional historian Kevin Gutzman as correctly stating there, ATF's views in the state exist for the administrative convenience of the federal government, and so of course any conflict between state and federal policy must be resolved in favor of the latter. This is another way of saying that the 10th Amendment is not binding to the federal government. Of course, that amounts to say that the federal officials have decided to ignore the Constitution when it doesn't suit them. Did you get that? Ignore the Constitution when it doesn't suit them. But that's just the problem. the federal government has been ignoring the Constitution for decades, so much so that if there is going to be any restoration of genuine liberty in the country, the states are going to have to stand up to this out of control national leviathan and say no. And they are going to have to say it loudly enough for Washington to get the message. And I cannot think of a freedom issue that is better to draw a line in the sand for than the issue of the rights for people to keep and bear arms. At the end of the day, the Second Amendment was never about hunting or target shooting. It has always been about protecting the people of the United States against federal tyranny. The Second Amendment itself states a well-regulated militia being necessary to secure to security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Emphasis added. Note, the purpose of the right to keep and bear arms was to ensure the security of a free state. Emphasis added. Free from what, you might ask? Free from federal tyranny, free from overbearing, encroaching, heavy-handed, would-be national government. The founders, even the centralists of the day, all acknowledged that the right to keep and bear arms was first of all for the protection of the people against government tyranny. Observe, if circumstances should at any time obligate the government to form an army of any magnitude, that army can never be formidable to the liberties of the people while there is a large body of citizens. Little, if at all, inferior, to them in discipline and use of firearms, who stand ready to defend their own rights and those of their fellow citizens. Alexander Hamilton, The Federalist Papers, number 29. While the people have property, arms in their hands, and only a spark of noble spirit, the most corrupt Congress must be mad to form any project of tyranny. Reverend Nicholas Collin, Fayetteville, North Carolina Gazette, October 12, 1789. The strongest reason for people to retain and keep and bear firearms is, at a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny in government. Thomas Jefferson. Who are the militia? Are they not ourselves? Congress has no power to disarm the militia. Their swords and every other terrible implement of the soldier are the birthright and of an American. The unlimited power of the sword is not in the hands of either the federal or state government, but where I trust in God